I want to talk about repeating sentence patterns because in the beginning, when I was still writing this mathematical English system, I shared my discoveries with other English teachers, and in Korea, this happened in Korea, and there was one particular one. It was called the Eastern English. It was a franchise, and one of the teachers from there happened to be an acquaintance of mine, and I taught her about how I make students repeat sentence patterns. And then it never clicked in her mind what I'm trying to say, because she quickly replied that, oh yeah, they also start a course like that, repeating sentence patterns. So I asked her how. She said there is a sentence, for example, I went home yesterday, and then we asked the student to replace the words in it, like I went to the market yesterday, I went to school yesterday, I went to New York yesterday, and I went home last month, and repeating the same sentence with different until they get it. And then with that she understood that their system in the school is essentially the same as mine. And repeating sentence pattern is not a new discovery. I'm sure many good teachers ask the students to do that because it's the simplest way, and instead of telling the student a sentence in English and ask them to repeat 20 times, it's a brainless exercise. But if they repeat the sentence patterns with their own words, of course they somewhat manufacture language. It is true. Then, what is different between repeating sentence pattern in traditional methods and the mathematical English system? It's very simple. The mathematical English system, like I explained before, it's symbolized knowledge and an integrated system of symbolized knowledge. Now, here the emphasis on the symbolized, and method is not symbolized. So, when you exercise sentence patterns in the method, you pay attention to the what. Basically, your mind is preoccupied with what to say, and then you're trying to make it right. And when that happens, you don't automatically notice the pattern in the sentence, because the pattern is the way we do it. It's not what we do, it's how we do it. And if the pattern is not given to you, then you may miss it. If it's given hidden in the sentence, a full sentence, then you will focus on the sentence and on the words you have to change, and then you try to make it right, but you have absolutely no idea how to put a sentence from zero to the last word together. And it doesn't matter how long you exercise it, it doesn't matter how many you exercise. Basically, when you learn it, depends on how your mind can see the pattern in what you are exercising. Now, the math is the shortcut, like it's the shortcut to anything in language learning, because the math starts by giving the students the pattern, and then they exercise the pattern, creating the language. So here the students get a formula, and then they are taught how to apply it, how to turn them into words. And the first difference that here they give the whole sentence, and then here the students get a formula which is the essence of the sentence. And it's precisely this essence that the student will take home or will never take home, depending on how well he is able to learn from whatever is given to him in the class. But an English teacher should not give the sentences, should give or impart the essence of the sentences. Because the sentences, if the students takes home, memorize it, it's completely useless. But it's a very, very common practice in Korea. They rely on memory far too much, and because they overdo memory work and they don't produce language in the class enough. Like I explained before, a traditional method would have 60% success rate anywhere in the world, but in Japan and Korea, and maybe we can put China in the same category also, is, I would say, if you find 10 students out of 100 in a school that can actually think and speak in English, not read, think and speak, converse and use the language, put life into the language, then that school in Korea is exceptionally successful and for some reason is exceptionally good. Because you don't find 10 students out of every 100 who can converse in English in Korea. The situation is that sad. And it's not because they are stupid, they're not stupid at all. They are not taught in a way that suits their mind, because their mind handles information differently from a Western mind, but that is not our subject now. So, when you are giving your students sentences and not the essence of the sentences, and then let them come up with the sentences themselves, what you basically teaching is the manifestation of language. That's what you're trying to give them. But it's a futile effort, because manifestations never end, you know. In a math class, we give the reality of the language. Now what's the difference? Everything in this world has two kind of sides. Manifestation and its essence. Yeah, you must not confuse the two, because then you will work in vain a lot in your life, and you will have very unreasonable thoughts and thinking patterns, but never mind that one. Now, the manifestation of language has no limit, because it's not what we want to learn, because the study of that can never end, because the same essence, until we die, we can use for creating new and new and newer manifestations, meaning newer speeches, newer sentences, newer everything. Yet, the reality of the language remains the same. So whether we can claim that we speak English or not, and whether we feel the confidence to call ourselves an English speaker depends essentially on how much of the reality of the language we understand and how much of that we can use. Now, the manifestations, never mind. Infinite variations. The manifestations have infinite variations, and opposed to that, the math is a finite set of formulas. So, definitely if I had to learn a language and I was contemplating which way to go, I will not want to go into something that is infinite, and I don't see how in this lifetime I will ever get it all. But if it's finalized, if it's set rigid, if it's finalized, then I would consider that, because then that comes to me as a fixed plan, and I can work with it. I can calculate based on it. I can foresee the price it will cost. I can allocate the time it will take me to learn, and I can work with it. I can organize my life around it. But infinite variations have an invisible end. So when you go into any traditional method school and you ask them the question, okay, I understand, if I join the class today, and then it will take some time for me to learn this language. So can you please tell me when will be my last day at this school, when I got it all? The teachers, whoever is consulting you, would look into your eyes and, are you dumb to ask this question? Would be thinking in his mind, but very politely he or she would just answer, listen, language learning is an ongoing process. Nobody can claim that he knows the complete language. And how fast you can get to the point where you are satisfied is really individual. It only depends on you, and we can help you to do that. We can accelerate this process for you, and we can guide you in the way, but it's really an individual thing that you are asking me. Now, when you deal with the fixed plan, it's very simple. 3 questions that only a fixed plan kind of institution can answer. 1. When you start, when you end, and how you get there. If I was looking for a suitable English class, these are the 3 questions that I would ask in the school. I would want to ask them to show me how I will start. So here, when they start by asking you to speak simple sentences, out the door I would go in a split second, because my aim is to speak sentences, and I know that I can't speak any sentence in English yet, so therefore there has to be a process to get there. Otherwise it's not guaranteed. Here, there's no guarantee. There is no process. They ask you to do what is your purpose of learning. How can you? Never mind. Second question. When will the curriculum end? Here we already know the answer. Here it's not so. They will ask me how many classes a week you want to take. Because if it's once a week, we have this number of lessons, and when you finished, it's finished. You got it all. You got the CALS, the complete English linguistic structure imparted in you, and you can deal with it. If you practice more daily, let's say, then you will be fluent, you will do a lot of things with ease. If you don't practice, then it will come to you slower, but you will have the language. Now, then the third question, how do you make me get there? Well, here the method is obvious. There are all kinds of methods, but basically it's book study. I'm not a friend of books, especially book study is not really my stuff. So in a split second, out the door I would go. Here they would tell me the language is divided into 3 levels by the universal linguistic possibilities. We can only say the same thing 3 different ways. And a thought is also divided into 3 parts, because it's causality, time and space, in which we locate actions and we communicate accordingly. So there is a structure, and we go through this structure systematically, and at the end of the course, whatever you can say in your language, you are able to say it in English. But you may need a dictionary if you don't know enough words for it, but you know how to do it nevertheless. Probably I would consider the maths, and probably after the first question, out the door in a split second I would go from any other school. Now, that's about the invisible end. What is the curse of the invisible end? Is that it's very difficult home study that never ends. The home study is very difficult, and you have to know that when you are learning a skill, and it does not matter what skill you learn, whether it's swimming, mathematics, English, or fighting, or dancing, or whatever skill you choose to learn, the greatest progress you do when you do it alone and nobody guides you. Because whatever you succeed there, at that moment, that stays with you. In the class, let's say in the case of English, you receive what you're supposed to integrate into your own system. In the case of English, in your own system of communication. In the case of boxing, is your own system of playing the game, right? So, when you want to progress in your study, then home study is essential. In fact, many of the Korean students fail in English because they don't study at home. And if they study, they only do memory work, but they don't produce language away from their teachers. Then, on the other hand, math is an easy home study, because once the formulas are given to you and explained to you how to use it and confirmed by the teacher that yes, you understood, you can use it, all you have to do is go home and keep doing until you see the teacher again. Then he confirms, yes, you still can do it after a week. That means it's yours forever. I can give you another few, and you can exercise this few plus the rest. And so you have to write me a composition of half a page of speech about a single topic, and let's say do it every day for me. Write me 5 until we meet again. It's that simple, yeah? So easy home study, difficult home study. If I did not have enough knowledge until here to decide, or couldn't find enough courage until here to decide, at this point, I'm sure that if I were in considering any traditional method, and in my thinking I reached here, out the door I would go in a split second. But if math teacher consulted me and he explained all this to me, I think I would give it a try, this one. So, essentially what the difference it makes, how you repeat sentences, is what you conclude after this. You try or you don't try. But of course, when you have no understanding of all this and the math was not invented yet, then you had no way to compare and you just couldn't know better. This was the only way, so you had to go this way. No blame on you. I have done this a few times in my life. It's possible. It's all right. It's all right to do this, but now that the math is available, the math is the wisest choice of all. Yeah? And with this, I wish you well.